AI is not a career game changer for the MarTech leader. Every seasoned leader has been here before and is going to recognize hype versus reality, and they'll add AI functionality to their stack toolkit when it can genuinely bring some business value, but not before that.
Welcome to Real Story on MarTech. Ruthless advocates for your MarTech mission. Advising buyers with just the facts on stacks to get you on the right track.
All right, welcome back to the Real Story on MarTech. I'm Jarrod, Gingras, Managing Director of the Real Story Group.
And I'm Tony Byrne, founder of Real Story Group.
All right, Tony, today's topic is career killers and kudos for MarTech leaders.
Yeah, this one's a bit different for us, isn't it? I mean, at RSG, we give out a lot of architecture and technology advice, sometimes with a little bit of an organizational kicker. But we've traditionally kind of shied away from giving specific career tips. I think it's maybe because early on we thought that maybe we didn't have enough patterns to really tell people, or maybe just not enough chutzpah to tell people, hey, you should be doing this, with your career. But you and I have been doing this quite a while now, so I think we've been able to watch a lot of MarTech leaders progress throughout their careers, and it's been kind of fun for us. And this takes different paths and different paces, so it seems time to share what we've observed. Absolutely, and we've observed a lot. So today we're going to give 5 lessons to impart to enhance and to kudos for your career, and also to avoid some career killers as well. So let's get into it.
Yeah, well, we're going to pick up there. Let's start with a real banger of a career killer, and that's don't align with a single vendor.
Yeah, so this is a big one, and it might seem counterintuitive at first to you, the listener out there, because you can get tactical career boosts by doing things with a vendor, like becoming like the deep guru on their platform, or speaking at vendor events and serving as a case study for the vendor, and so forth.
Yeah, but that's really kind of a temporary sugar rush, isn't it? It's a short-term professional surge with potentially some long-term pitfalls.
Yeah, exactly. And now, if part of your MarTech role is serving as a product manager, you definitely do want to champion the capabilities of any solution that you bring into the organization. But the minute that you start aligning with the vendor, I mean, things like speaking at their events, starting to focus on tooling rather than outcomes, getting cozy with their leadership, all that stuff, you start doing that, and you subtly begin putting your future prospects in their hands rather than your own.
Yeah, and in my experience, the large suite vendors I'll pick on first, the Adobes, the Microsoft, and Salesforce, they're very good at cultivating you, right? They want you to be their in-house expert at your company. They may even want you to create something like a Salesforce Center of Excellence at your firm.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that happen more than once, and you don't want to be like the Salesforce guru. That's right. Definitely a career killer.
Right, because what happens, you soon find yourself doing their cross-selling for them, right? You become an extension of their sales team. And at first, some professional benefits, can accrue, but at some point you'll learn that these relationships become pretty one-sided and inevitably pretty transactional, right? So you need to also remember at the same time, these vendors, as we've talked about before, are very skilled in the art of bullying, when they need to be, so no matter how cozy your relationship is.
Yeah, and we did a whole podcast episode just on that topic.
Yep. For those of you counting at home, that was our inaugural episode, number 1.
On vendor bullying, yeah. But, like any career killer, there's also a career kudo on the flip side of this, isn't there?
Sure. The smartest MarTech leaders that I think we've advised, they all recognize a central truth. Vendors and platforms, they will come and go. If you do a good job of selecting the right platforms, and we have lots of opinions on this, sure, that technology should endure for a while in your stack. Right. But the vendor attention and roadmaps, we've seen it can wander. Vendors go through reorgs, just like your firm goes through reorgs. And since modern enterprise stacks are composable, no single dominant vendor, ideally, I think you'll want to stay really light on your feet here.
Yeah. So here's kind of a summary of the career boost. You want to stay aligned with business capabilities and business outcomes rather than a vendor's answers to your problems, and never, ever shrink from challenging your incumbent suppliers.
All right. Well, that brings us to our next kudo, which is honestly somewhat related, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is it. If you're going to be a real leader in MarTech, you want to build domain expertise rather than platform expertise. In other words, you want to be able to articulate and build, for example, what a strong test and optimize regime looks like, and less so articulate how to push the right advanced knobs in like Optimizely test platform or some other testing platform.
Right. You can always find people with Optimizely skills, either built into your organization or from the outside. But real leaders are the ones who justified and build programs, right? And by the way, it's worth remembering here that at your next career stop, they might not deploy something like Optimizely, but those domain skills, whether it's DAM, web content management, marketing automation, e-commerce, journey orchestration, wherever you're playing here, those skills will always be needed.
Amen. And by the way, if you're building that program and building a leading team, then the same tenet also applies, to the people that you bring in to staff that team. So let me give you an example. Let's say your enterprise licensed a platform, a major platform like Braze.
Sure.
So Braze is a very rich and complicated outbound marketing platform. Now, if you're a reader of our email platform vendor evaluations, you know that Braze gives you a lot of levers to pull, but also pretty famously confronts the marketer with a variety of Byzantine problems. I mean, starting with the vendor itself, but even more so the platform itself. So it's tempting to save time and hassle by hiring an experienced, Braze specialist. But what I'd advise is this: hey, if given the choice between someone with more Braze platform facility versus someone with more savvy and experience around executing messaging-rich international marketing campaigns, I would for sure pick the latter, pick the person with the domain expertise. Look, the Braze specifics can be taught and sometimes outsourced, even if just temporarily. The real gift here for your program comes in modern experience campaign, design, testing, and analysis, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but those sorts of skills get acquired in years, not months, right?
Yeah, so that's really what you need to look for when you're going to build a leading team. Okay, so for our third topic, we have another sort of two-sided coin with a potential career killer and a very big career booster. And that's around the whole topic of data.
It's really impossible to overstate how important this topic has become for a MarTech leader's career. Sometimes we often talk about how some people in the MarTech space come from a more content background and they don't want to talk about data. And you can laugh at all the Silicon Valley boasts about how data is the new oil and all that. But the fact is, data has now become the third leg of the MarTech stool, right next to marketing and technology.
Yeah, I mean, for a while there, I was even talking about MarDayTech, as kind of a new shorthand.
Yeah, but we made you kill that because it's not the most common term that rolls off the tongue, right?
Okay. I agree. You're right there, Jarrod. But there's still some important structural shifts happening within large enterprises that are really important for setting the table here. And one big shift is that the data function is increasingly splitting off from IT, either formally or in a dotted line way.
And of course, like everything else, AI is accelerating this, right?
Absolutely. And what we need to understand as MarTech people is that the data team, whether it's separately at the enterprise data tier or within your own MarTech org, that data team is facing this huge, ubiquitous challenge of exploiting these, incredible volumes of information. And this data team, they're going to bring their own evolving rhythms and skills and job roles and tools to this challenge.
Right. And what we see sometimes is that the MarTech leaders are treating this data team as kind of like a black box over in the corner, right? And without even trying to understand what's really in that box. It's hard enough learning all the IT stuff that I need to know. And now here comes this whole complicated world of data ops, and data ops at scale is even more tricky, right?
Yeah. And sometimes you'll see a MarTech leader, even if unintentionally, they'll kind of treat the data team as like, the help, right? Just give me the reports I need and I'm good. Yeah. You don't need to tell me, how you got there.
And that, Tony, is definitely a career killer.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we get into the career kudo here that's on the flip side of this coin, let's set the context. Almost every trend that RSG envisions around MarTech, from incorporating effective AI to finally mastering personalization to the incredible growth and importance of marketing analytics and attribution. All of these trends hinge on ready access to hyper-relevant, high-quality data.
Right. So the big career boost here is to leverage the skills that you already built by stitching together marketing and IT to now stitch together a new first-class actor in the marketing drama, if you will. And that's the data team. Bring them to the party.
That's right. They are definitely a first-class actor now. And there's really two key pieces to this for the MarTech leader. So one is, working with your enterprise data team, which you definitely want to do more of this with each passing year. And then secondly, building up the data chops, within your own MarTech team. And a lot of MarTech leaders, to their credit, have been building data analytics capacity, and that's good. But now there's this huge opportunity around data activation, or what some might call data leverage, to drive better customer and prospect experience, which is a very different discipline than analytics.
Yeah, and this definitely means curating new roles on your team as well, in areas like marketing data operations.
Yeah, there's a variety of new roles there, whether it's inside the MarTech team or part of the enterprise data team. And so the big career boost here for you as a MarTech leader is getting closer to this work, at least to the point where your team is teaching you what the important gaps are, where there are opportunities in this huge fire hose of data. It will make you more effective, and it will also open up new professional opportunities.
Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of change here, but can you give us an example from one of our clients?
Yeah, well, I can share a case where RSG was helping a large global firm select a very complex CDP. And what was interesting about this firm was that the CMO herself participated actively in the vendor demos. Now, we usually don't encourage that, but in this case, it was a real boon. And so the situation here was that from a previous role, the CMO was very seasoned around activating customer data at scale. And so during the demo, she asked really some great questions. Now, this particular company itself was very data forward. And I'm going to suggest that this person likely won the CMO job itself because she could thrive in that data forward environment.
So now let's turn to our fourth topic, another career booster, and everyone's favorite buzzword.
AI!
No, it's actually something more important than AI, believe it or not. And in fact, it's likely to be fueled by AI, but that's omnichannel.
You're right. Omnichannel is so important, but it is out there in the market really a buzzword that gets abused a lot. I mean, every vendor says that their solutions are omnichannel, but of course, none of them really are. But what omnichannel does is, from what we've seen, particularly in the last couple of years, is Jarrod, it calls the question on what MarTech really does, or what your team should really do. And I think that's where the career growth starts to come in.
Yeah, and at Real Story Group, we've certainly seen the scope of MarTech differ pretty widely across our enterprise clients, right? I would wish for every MarTech team that their overall responsibility encompassed the full scope of outbound campaigns, paid media, and inbound experience, plus organic social media management. That way you could better align multi-channel customer experiences across the board. But unfortunately, those three clusters, if you will, frequently fall to different teams, like marketing campaigns versus brand or performance marketing versus digital for inbound. And they often don't intersect until much higher in the org chart, right? So the first order of business, if you haven't already, is to provide leadership on behalf of your customers and prospects across all of these touch points. This means, taking the customer's point of view and pressing for stack alignment and efficiency across channel silos, as well as inevitably more foundational channel independent services. And we have a podcast episode on that too, Tony.
Yeah, that's episode number 2, which talks about foundational services and this, what we describe as a legless architecture. But if we go back to career growth, this kind of customer-centric alignment that you're talking about, the need to, across inbound, outbound, paid, social, to align all of that, it's not easy. But the enterprise really needs it. And if you, the MarTech leader, don't lead here, it begs the question, will anyone else,
Yeah, probably not. But even that's just a first step, right? So what we've been talking about so far is really multi-channel alignment. The next order of business for your career is supporting true omni-channel customer experience.
Yeah, and if you thought multi-channel was hard, omni-channel definitely is much harder. But to that extent, I believe it's a potential major springboard for you personally as a MarTech leader. So if you're advocating for the customer and the coherence of their interactions with your firm, you're inevitably going to encounter major stakeholder groups across your enterprise. Like I'm talking about sales and account management in B2B, customer service and support, product, customer success, channel and distribution partners, and no doubt others, right? And the specific labels and roles will change depending on your industry, but you get the idea here about the diversity of internal actors who are engaging with your customers.
Yeah. And yet here's the opportunity. Someone needs to marshal these resources on behalf of the customer and the enterprise, right? So now the customer has been conditioned to Netflix-like experiences, and the enterprise increasingly wants to demonstrate some stickiness, like a Netflix. So they both have a stake in this outcome. It's just that omnichannel is going to require cross-departmental cooperation on a level that we've rarely seen in large enterprises and small enterprises and medium enterprises, but it's that much harder at large enterprises. But if you don't take the lead, who's going to do this?
That's right. Probably no one. And so here's the thing for MarTech leaders listening in. I actually really believe that you're well suited to this task of omni-channel coherence and engagement and growth. So let's tick off the things that you bring to this party. You know where key content assets live. You know what the customer data is and where it is and how you can leverage it. You hopefully have excellent user experience or UX resources at hand. You understand the concept of journeys. You can navigate privacy essentials. You know how to work with both IT and data ops, and you've acquired collaboration leadership skills. So, my friends, take the lead. Your customers will love it, your enterprise wins, and you grow in your career.
Yeah, it's funny, Tony, when we meet with our MarTech leaders in the context of our MarTech Stack Leadership Council on a regular basis, there's always this light bulb moment where, if not you, then who else, right? And that's been a common theme throughout all of our meetings, and it's been kind of fun to see. But that brings us to our fifth kudo, to really pay attention to.
So now this one has to be about AI.
Nope, not yet.
Okay, so now, Jarrod, we're going to do a whole career advice episode without droning on about AI.
That's right, Tony, and that's because AI is not an end in and of itself. It's just another means to an end, a tool that, when it matures, should improve some efficiency and effectiveness. But AI is not a career game changer for the MarTech leader. Every seasoned leader has been here before and is going to recognize hype versus reality, and they'll add AI functionality to their Stack toolkit when it can genuinely bring some business value, but not before that. In fact, I'd argue it's a career distraction for many, to get too obsessed with AI right now.
Absolutely, when there's so many other things to do. And you mentioned when it matures, and that's definitely the key phrase there about AI. Okay, so what is the next career topic?
Yeah, the next topic is deepening connections across your own networks.
So, okay, I get that. Makes sense. I mean, like, we can tick off the people who are telling you, your coach, your therapist, your spouse or romantic partner, your spiritual advisor. They're all telling you that human connections are what matter the most in this world. But tell us, Jarrod, how this ties into a MarTech career.
Yeah, so just to be clear, I'm talking about peer connections with other MarTech leaders. There's a couple professional advantages here. Number one, a set of resources that can help you find your next landing spot. We know people in the MarTech leaders are transient, but it can also give you a source of takes on common problems and opportunities.
Yeah. Now, if only there was a vendor-free forum for large enterprise MarTech leaders to convene privately, get advice, and share these lessons. Of course, I'm joking a little bit here, Jarrod, because full disclosure, it so happens that Real Story Group runs such a MarTech Leadership Council, and it serves as a peer learning network.
Yeah, council meetings feature a lot of private sharing, and sometimes the most useful outcome for a MarTech leader is confirmation that you're on the right path. Everyone thinks they're behind, right? But no one can be 100% behind. Someone's doing some things really well, and maybe other areas, in certain areas you might be behind. But I think it's important to know that the most common takeaway from these sessions that we have on a quarterly basis is that the world of enterprise MarTech is not as advanced as the vendors claim or as the gurus would claim and would otherwise have us try to believe.
That's right. So it's really it's useful confirmation for you about how you're prioritizing your time and your energy. But to your point about a new landing place, I won't say the council is some sort of magic employment board, but what it does offer is really critical for your career. And so that's new ideas, as I mentioned, confirmation of your best instincts, and definitely more wisdom. And, wisdom is something that AI is never going to give us. AI will give us knowledge, but it won't give us wisdom. The wisdom comes hopefully a little bit from Real Story Group, but then a lot from your peers. And that in turn can help ensure that your next professional landing place, gives full measure to the breadth of your potential and the full measure of what you deserve as a successful MarTech leader.
All right. With that helpful career note, I'll speak for both of us in wishing all of you the best in your MarTech career.
Indeed. Super excited about what's next up in our podcast series. It's going to be a Halloween edition about MarTech zombies and how to escape or kill them.
Well, that'll be a fun one. And in the meantime, we invite all of you to like, subscribe, share this podcast with a friend, and to share your career lessons, other lessons that you want us to add to the list, whether they're kudos or killers. We'll certainly add them to the list and share with our council members and clients alike. So thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Real Story on MarTech.